Good afternoon, friends. I'm your host, Sharat. Welcome to our show called PV for Temples and Endowments. Today, we have our esteemed guest, Dr. Saraswati Kalvakota, who's a doctor of late Palumarthi Venkata Narasimha Rao, also known as P.V.Narasimha Rao, who was India's Prime Minister from 1991 to 1996, who's known for his radiant aura, multilingualism, and razor-sharp intellect. PV was a humanitarian, an amazing human being, knowledgeable in all subjects in life from spirituality, economics, languages, life, science, and the like. He was a child at heart, yet very sensible in all aspects of life, including politics. His roots were deep in spiritual and religious soil of India. Rao's term as Prime Minister was an eventful one in India's history. His daughter, Dr. Saraswati, is a wonderful physician from Ohio and specializes in internal medicine and pediatrics. She has 30 years of experience as physician in internal medicine and pediatrics and has treated a lot of patients with ease and success. She is also a medical director for a non-profit organization in collaboration with Global Initiative Program with the Wright State Boonshoft School of Medicine, Dayton, Ohio. As well, she is a clinical assistant professor in Wright State University. Typically, this show is a discussion and an appeal for Bharat Ratna to late P.V.Narasimha Rao garu. So let us discuss from his daughter, Dr. Saraswati Kalvakota, how P.V. reformed and brought significant changes in the Hindu temples and endowments in India. Also, we will find out P.V.'s spiritual inclinations and how this penchant helped P.V. in his work for the temples. So welcome to the show called P.V. for Temples, Saraswati garu. Welcome to the show.
Namaskaram Andi. It is a great honor and it's really a pride moment for me. Having Sharat garu, Mana TV anchor garu, he has really taken a lot of interest along with Mana TV organizers and NRI organizers. And I'm just so proud and so much humbled and feeling it's a privilege for me to be here with all of you. And I welcome all virtual audience who are here because they have a deep interest in what my father did to the country and the world. So it is it is such an experience. It's very unique to be his daughter, and then it is very much different from what others experience as children. And it is not something I can say in one word or two words. I can go on and say forever, my growing up with a family where the legendary person is today and respected by all in the world. And we never thought that was what he would be when we were growing up. However, my father, as you all know, being so experienced in so many ways, and so talented in so many ways, and he started his life very humble as the agriculturist, as a matter of fact, I would say, in a small town called Vangara. And we were there, in fact, some of them were there I was there only for 8 years in the village. And my younger sisters were there a little longer. My older brothers, after they were like teenagers, adults, we moved to Hyderabad. And the only reason we moved to Hyderabad was basically my father wanted all of us to get education to the fullest extent in our lives. Nothing seemed to help make him happy other than his children getting the fullest education. And that was not just for sons. He did the same thing for his daughters. And I am so grateful to him today because of him, I'm here today. And I would not have imagined that I could come this far in my life. And he was a very limited, he was limited in speaking, but I could see a lot of things in silence, the messages he would give. And he was never a preacher.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And he was never a preacher. And he always said, if you want to do something, I'll help you. But you just go into the fullest extent. And that is where my role is going to be for you. So not only he encouraged me, he encouraged my sisters, my brothers. They wanted to be, one wanted to be fine arts, and she became a good artist today, and she runs the colleges. And my two older brothers were advocates, and my younger brother was is an engineer. So other sisters are one doctor, one law. So I would see that no matter what, the education was our pulse in the family. So I think that's the main thing I want to mention as a child only.
Lovely association with your father. I mean, your growing years and after you came to USA, any specific learning you have imbibed from him in your growing years? I mean, anything interesting which changed your life?
As I said, passion for learning, as I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So when I studied, he also encouraged me in music, and he encouraged all of us in the music. And at that time, I was so small, I was unable to hold the instrument. So he said, if that is so, go learn Bharatanatyam. And I would go every day after school to music college in Hyderabad. It was in King Koti, I still remember. Every day I would go, and I got the diploma, and he wasn't satisfied until I finished my 3 years. And I think his motivation, his inspiration gives us to progress in what we were doing. And, he was quite happy that I got that, degree in me. And of course, when my main goal was going into medicine, so that helped me, that kind of put it outside. And but that music background is what really helped me to relax. What he would say, you can do anything, the music is going to relax you. And at times of bad times or good times, the music is divine, and it helps you. It brings you in touch with your own self. So never underestimate any hobbies which you have in music. And of course, he also encouraged us to get into a lot of physical activity, but those days there were not that many. So that was the thing. So, we didn't have, other than playing shuttlecock, we didn't have much of opportunities in that. So that was his main interest, is to have diversity in your life. So you can hang on to whatever happens in your life, you hang on to. And he led a life of so simple. He was humble. So he never encouraged us to be very jazzy, or he never encouraged to have a very luxury life. We had enough to survive. We had enough to eat. We had enough to go to school. We had enough of everything. But he himself never had a luxurious life. So how can he provide us a luxurious life? And that has helped me a lot to be in touch with the basics, no matter what I do in my life. Even today, I always think that, this is really too much luxury. Should I have it or not? Of course, things change when you come to USA, but at the same time, I never forgot my roots.
No, you have absorbed from him, and highly commendable.
Thank you.
Onto his skills, and also you as well. I mean, because I cannot conceive of someone like you, who's a daughter of P.V.Narasimha Rao garu, being so down to earth and humble. I really commend you for that as well.
That's all because of him, and I remember him every day, and this is a special day to remember him and to share my joy with all of you.
Delve deeper into our subject, which is temples and endowments. What better occasion than Deepavali? So firstly, I wish you a very happy Deepavali, and all the Mana TV, TV5 and Mana TV International viewers a very happy Deepavali. And we have embarked on this session to talk about PV's reforms for temples and endowments, and many more things. We will dig deep into that. But first, Firstly, I want to ask you my first actual question will be: what are the portfolios he took upon, and why he had a penchant
Well,
for endowments?
thanks, Andy. I would like to elaborate quite a bit on this particular department he has taken up. And the reason that I would not say this is the only department he has launched or he has made a lot of reforms, but if you look at his lifestyle and his history, personal history, the spirituality part of it, the lot of the things which he assimilated from the Vedas or from Sanskrit, from studying, going further in his languages, it helped him a lot to understand the depth of the lot of things. And then his personality, like what I would say, being detached and being spiritual, and then doing things for the mass community. There are all those things which I think came from his unseen part of his personality. What is unseen part is a real core of this personality. That core of personality, he was very spiritual in that. That spirituality has brought the big tree of his activities. And it's like, we all see, talking in Vedanta, you have a seed, unmanifest seed, and that manifests into the Prakriti. So that is what I see. He was very strong in his base of who he was. And endowments department, it helped him to apply his interest, his passion into all the things which needed that help. So that's how, he did quite a bit of service in that department. And just to go back to his history as a politician, and he started off his life as a freedom fighter, as we all know. And then he had to fight with Nizam's rule. And he was in that also in that field also for a while, until we got out of the Nizam's rules in Telangana region. So after that, in 1957 to 1977, he was the member of Legislative Assembly, MLA, for Andhra Pradesh, in Andhra Pradesh. And then he was a law minister, and then he was an endowments minister, he was an education minister, he was health minister, and then he became a chief minister for Andhra Pradesh in 1971 to 1973. Now, the why I'm elaborating all his departments is whatever the department he was given to him, he was requested to take this over by the chief minister. He would do a thorough job. He would analyze, tease, come to the core of the problems in that particular portfolio, and he would work on from the core to make it to the fullest extent of efficient place. So that was his hobby, I would say that was the way he functioned, I would say. And in endowments, he did the same thing. So he was, as I said, he was known to take most difficult jobs and then keep it, straighten up everything.
Significant work in endowments.
Okay.
So, I mean, because he's known for, resolutions and resolving a lot of problems. Everyone thinks that endowment is his main pursuit. Why is that? He had other portfolios also. So, is that a myth or is that a reality?
I don't think it is a myth. It's a reality. And because his personality as a person, he was spiritual. He was he was determined to visit temples, determined to visit mathas, to see what is in this religion, what is that I need to learn in this. And this is my religion, this is my faith, and this is something I'm asked to exponentially improve on this. And at the same time, he was not just a Hindu and then do all rituals every day. He also supported other religions, name it Christianity, name it other Muslim religion, Islam, and he was not opponent or anything. He, as a minister, he supported everything, but the way he compared at these, the way he looked at all the temples and mathas, they needed a lot of help. And the reason I'm saying is, when you look at the history of the endowments department, these temples were built in first millennium, and all the mathas came in 13th century. So you can see the history of the temples and mathas. They go back to centuries, and that means what? That is, there is a treasure which needs to be unfolded and learned, and which needs to be propagated to the people who believe in Hinduism. So that was, he took that as a challenge. He took that as his job. And he was in Kurtalam place, where he spent 1 month there. And then with the help of a lot of endowments department staff, those are intellectuals, and he brought them together, and he formulated coding and in the policies and regulations. Because prior to this, I want to explain before I go further, there was an independency. There was, I was looking at some of the policies of the temples in Andhra Pradesh. They were under government since 1952 or 3, but it was very loosely managed. And when temples were in trouble, there was no way to rescue them. And priests were under poverty level, because there was no income coming for them in smaller places. Those temples who were doing well is because of the devotees who would come and donate money. But there are thousands of temples which had no money, and they were just in the small towns, and priests could not go anywhere. So they were suffering from poverty. And the members in the temple who were serving the temples were also suffering from poverty. So this was the situation before he became endowments minister. And after that, as I said, once he formulated the regulations and all, he immediately made it mandatory, almost like. So he made a rule that 2 priests should be there in every temple. And then he made a rule, regardless of whether they make money from the devotees or not, they get a fixed salary from the government, so that they could at least come up from the poverty level. So that was the main thing, really. It was a breakthrough for the priests and staff who belonged to the temples. So in addition to that, he also had inspectors coming to the temples and see the ruins, good things and bad things, and they made the analysis. Okay. So in that way, first, for any problem we need to understand, to solve, we need to understand where is the problem coming from. It's a very simple formula, it applies to any situation. So that's how I think he was methodical in going into any problem. First, he gets to where is the problem, and then he builds up trying to solve it. And that's how the temples were really, really progressed and did much better than they did before. Of course, you cannot fix all the temples in 10 years or 4 years, but definitely there was a drastic turning point for the temples he established.
In temples, which, a lot of people, have no idea about, but he has delved deep into it. He has digged deep into the systems, and, he has made such wonderful amends. I don't think anyone has done that. Absolutely, I agree on your point, and that is really commendable. I have also read that there were illegal occupations of temple lands by people, and PV have resolved them successfully with his own strategies and with his wonderful heart, and he has rendered a lot of help. to those, to these encroached lands. So what is, what is your take on that, and explain us how
Well,
he did that?
I'm so glad you asked me that question, because this is one of the areas he made a big, he really saved the temple. This one area, I would say, is another part of his improvements in the temple this was a major contribution. If you look at the history of the temples going backwards for several years, the way it functioned was that when the temples were constructed by rajas and other people, those who were rich people in the town, and then they had money, they were religious. The temples were already constructed, built, and there was some endowments was there, but it was as a part of endowment for the temple, they gave lands to the temple. Those people who were religious people who believed in their religion, in Hindu religion. So what happened was the priests were to manage the lands for the temple, and the priests had to give it away for cultivation to other people, and then they would bring the money and then goes into the temple fund. Over the period of time, there were landlords who just occupied illegally, because they know temples, priests are so soft and they don't fight, and they know that they don't have voices in the government. They occupied illegally, and they claimed, we're not giving to the temples at all. And then they just automatically possessed the land.
Were they common people?
They were common people, because they were common but greedy people. There are some people in India, they just go and occupy the lands, grab the lands. Then the landowner had to fight, as you know, that it is my land. He had to fight for his own land. So similarly, the fate of the temple lands also became like that. So with that, I personally know one famous sitarist. His name was Atmaram. Famous, he really taught sitar to my son too. His ancestors were running a small temple in Secunderabad, and that land was totally occupied by somebody. And he was grieving on that so much that was given by his ancestors for the temple, and he can't claim on this. So these are the problems, inherent problems we have. Though we are religious people, but when it comes to occupying lands, they never hesitated. So I think a lot of lands were given back to these temples. They were summoned, these landlords were summoned to come to the court, and by doing some legal actions, those temple lands were given back to the temples Sunday. So that was the biggest improvement, I would say, achievement he had done it. So the temples will survive, and the temples will be protected for the financial problems, and protected by in every which way. So that temple, once you build it, has to be sustained by itself. That's why people say, don't build a temple and walk away. You have a temple. If you build a temple, you're responsible for the temple. You have to protect the temple. So like that, he has done that. He has achieved that, and that's a great thing.
So in a way, he was like a lion who just went and did justice wherever
Right.
Justice was needed.
Yeah, some of these things he did, and he became unpopular also, because people didn't like him in certain ways. And then, my father is such a character. When he does things and he knows from his heart, it is to be used by large mass. He was never a person to help you personally, to give you a seat or to give you money. And he was unpopular in that regard.
With a good heart, he saved so many lives in that sense. So how about I've also read that he provided financial assistance to the priests or those who were deprived of money or common needs. So what kind of action exactly he did to scrutinize those things? And, can you just throw more light on that?
I would say I just already touched upon that, but I can say it in detail a little bit. All that I know is what, like Yadagiri Gutta and, Tirupati, and then there are Sri Shailam and all those, those temples which the priests were needed, certain temples that the TTD, he made TTD from the Vedic school where they finished their Vedic school in Agama Shastra. So they were asked to go and serve the temples, and that way, and then give him the salary so that they won't starve. Because there are still in Andhra Pradesh or in India, there are temples which still needs a priest, because they don't want to go, because there is no income coming there. So priests are the targets for going into below poverty level. With all the knowledge they have, they cannot survive. And it's a paradox Sunday. So what he encouraged is with schools, these new products of Vedic school students were requested to go to the temples where needed, but they were given some salary so that they can sustain and feed their families. So that's one thing he did. And wherever he sent, and even the same thing he did this to other countries, from TTD students, those who finished their Vedic Shastra, Vedas, they were asked to go to different places in the world to be priests for them. And that's how he helped a lot of priests. And then he helped Vedic schools, establishing Vedic schools where it is possible. And he helped bring those students out so that they are not left out with no jobs, because at the same time the curriculum had some empirical syllabus so that they could learn some of that, so they won't be totally strangers in the outside world. So he did those little changes or transitions for them to survive. And because the world changed, and it's never not like it's monasteries and people live in there forever. As the changes came on, priests also had to change to a certain extent their lifestyles. So he was for that.
What are the kinds of standards and norms PV established for operating temples autonomously or independently?
That part only a government can tell. The norms and standards established, that I know. But the regular policies and all those, I am not very well into explaining, honestly. I know about the mathas. You can ask me if you have any questions on the mathas.
Tell me his contribution to improve the mathas and to keep their philosophies intact. How are those mathas? I mean, how are they protected, and how that faith at large was propagated to the world at large?
Again, and these mathas, as I just mentioned, they are very ancient mathas. Sri Shankaracharya was the one who propagated Advaita, non-duality, in Hinduism, and his mathas went north to east, west to east in India. He was the first one to establish mathas, and so they are very, very ancient mathas. And then from there, the Dvaita matas came on. So these Dvaita matas, why they came on was they started thinking that there is no duality like that. There is a duality. So that is what they believed in. These Ramanujas and Madhvas and other Shivites. So they believed that there is a duality in it. So because of the duality, and there was a conflict in the non-duality, so they came out of the non-duality section, and then they established something like 20-25 mathas in India. And there were like a few of them were, almost half of them were in Andhra Pradesh. And some of them were Madhvas, some of them were Ramanuja and Vaishnavites, we call them. And they propagated, but they did not have a system, a structure laid. So they were not well protected. And it's like, there is no structure, when then they can do whatever they have to. And they were always afraid by invaders or somebody coming and then saying no or damaging the structure part of the monasteries. So all those things. And
So
my
more light
father,
on that, Andy.
the monasteries,
Go ahead,
which
please.
we call mathas, there was no protection there, because we have other mathas also. It's also like temples. We have other religions. We have other religions who could easily come and damage. Who is there to ask? See, so the temples were vulnerable, mathas were vulnerable. And this was a treasure of our ancient culture, ancient religion. It's that spirituality is what is being passed on from oral tradition to written tradition later on. And they were so solid, and very profound messages were saved in these mathas. And it was my father's duty. He felt that I need to protect them too, as much as I protect the temples, because these mathas most of their mathas also had Vedic schools, and that is the only place the religion was passed on, and the Vedas and Vedanta was passed on. More of the religion, that the Vedas were passed on, because they were studying Vedas, all Vedas. And so that was his second passion of protecting these Vedas, protecting the religion, protecting the dharma, protecting what is told in the Vedas, to protect the dharmas. And so that's what he embarked on, and he gave all the support and protection to these mathas.
Kind of took charge of that, and literally, at the time of their dissolution, he came as a rescue.
You said it right word. That is the right word, I would say. And that's why there are many mathas in many temples. Every day, when they give offerings to God, they bring my father's name. And he's such a great man. I am myself amazed at how he could grow that extent to do so much service to this mass population. And they are so appreciative of him. Nobody told him to bring his name in the morning every time God is worshipped. But I know he's everywhere. He's invisible, and he's everywhere. You take any field, he's there in that field, because he has done so much in that particular fields. It is hard to take his image away.
He's born for a reason. Like a Karana Janma.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm his daughter, but I still don't know a lot of things about him, because he's too high for me. He's at a very different level, and we are at a different level. Every time I hear something, he still amazes me. So I'm just so fortunate in that regard. And
epiphany upon epiphanies every time you listen to his deeds and achievements. That's beautiful.
And I remember that, anytime there were functions in Ravindra Bharati or somewhere, cultural functions, he would take me. He would say, Saraswati, let's go to that evening function. Things like that, he knew somehow, I would go with him. So, there was such a nice experience to be with him when I'm watching a program on the stage, and then he would say some things about that actor or actress or artist. I cherish every day those little things. We interacted with each other.
As well, to bring upon is, I cannot say this is controversial, but I just wanted to clear it off for everybody. He sent a lot of priests to USA and UK. Was he the first one to send the priests to foreign, or what was his motive? More than the motive, what was his idea behind it?
Well, he was a strong supporter of what his religion was, and it's saying that if you are a Christian, you be a good Christian. If you are a Muslim, you be a good Muslim. If you are a Hindu, you be a good Hindu. If you are a Jewish, you be a good Jewish. What else can be true other than this is true for it applies to everyone. Similarly, he had that intense knowledge and the ambition and the trishna, and that thirst for his language, Sanskrit, name it, Vedas, name it. So he would just want to propagate, not that by doing wrongdoings. When the temple was, when United States had no temples of whatsoever, and he sent a commissioner, endowments commissioner. His name was Vasudeva Rao. He was a very, very nice man, endowments commissioner. He sent him to New York, and he laid a foundation stone for Balaji temple there. And once that was built, it became one of the most popular temples in the United States. People used to go from all over. And that priests, all the priests, now there must be 10, 15, 20 priests there. They all came from TTD. So without priest, temple is nothing there, right? So we needed a priest. So he had to provide the priests for the operation of the temple. And similarly, there were so many temples in Houston. Now we have temples everywhere. So depending on the north, south, or you can say the priests came, those who wanted South Indian priests, they came from TTD, and also some other places where the Vedic schools were existing or existing now. So similarly, by doing that, he really helped the temples. He helped the people, devotees who want to worship their God, regardless where they are in the world. So that's a big service, Andy. We used to be so much eager to have a temple. When we came in 1973, we wanted to go to a temple. Only temple we could go was Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh. That's the only temple we used to visit. And then when we moved to Dayton, Ohio, we wanted a temple of our own. So when my father visited here, I made sure that we should have a temple. And I said, we are temple patrons and we want to build a temple. We need your help. And all the committee members talked to my father, and he said, okay, you want a temple? So many devotees are here. All right. So he made a personal interest. He took a personal interest sending Stapati Ganapati. He is the architect. And he is the architect. Also, he knows the Agama Shastra so well. He knows where the Garbhagudi should come, where the sanctum sanitorum comes, where the wings come, where the stomach, abdomen of the temple comes, where the legs of the temple should be. So there is a structure, very calculated structure for all the temples. If it is a Shivite temple, there is a different. If it is a Vishnu temple, it's a different. So these have to be followed, whether it is America or not, or Australia. So he did that same thing to other temples in other world also. So that was something, it is a service to keep the structure in. Religion brings a structure to a human being. And then from there you can grow up to be spiritual. So that a place was created for human beings who believed in God. And that's the greatest service one can offer. And he did that. So we have a temple, beautiful temple, Balaji temple, and it is almost like 25 years old.
Where is that, Andy? Where is it?
Dayton, Ohio.
Oh,
Dayton,
wow.
Ohio. And our members are so thankful to him. And we just recently had a TV show, Zoom show, like, on my father's, remembering my father from our temple and then local people too. So it is always appreciated. A good thing is always appreciated. And nobody can forget that service, the help he has given us in bringing the deities, shipping them from Bombay to New York. It was not an easy task. So I had to go several times to go and selected DTs in Jaipur and Hyderabad. But, I was very happy to do it because this was something which is going to be there forever. And, we are also, active in our community. We are, we do service our community and whatever we could in our capacity. So it's an all win-win situation, Andy.
We know that he knows a lot of languages. I think how many? I think almost 15, 16. I mean, I don't know the number, but at least I think it's beyond 15. Most of the Indian languages. And one of the languages, because we're talking about temples, is definitely Sanskrit. So why did he? I mean, what was his interest in Sanskrit?
Again, he says that is the basic language. If you know Sanskrit, you know all. And that was his thinking, number one. Number two, he would always go to the root word of each words, whether it is Latin, whether it is Spanish, whether it is German, whether it is French or Tamil. He would say, if you go into the root word, where did the word come from? You catch that root word, and then that root word gives you is everywhere other languages. So that was his passion, knowing any language. And that was, he again, as I said, he goes into the root, right? So he would learn from the root of that word. And when he was in Maharashtra during the freedom times, he was very well, he spoke so well Marathi. He learned Marathi there. And people love him when he speaks Marathi. Maharashtrians love him. And he has written books, translated books from Marathi to Telugu, Marathi to English. And so like he also translated so many books, Veyi Padagalu to Hindi. So he was a Sahitya Ratna in Hindi. So he had that inherent language expansion skills. And I do not know how, but I know what he used to do. As a high school student, I used to see a Sanskrit Pandit, Kappagantula Lakshmana Shastri. He used to come and they would shut the doors and they would talk, he would learn Sanskrit from him. And I would say maybe once a week or so. So one day I caught hold of Kappagantula Lakshmana Shastri. I said, I want to learn Shastri Garu. And he says, no, you are going to medical school and you can't learn right now because it's going to distract you. I will teach you when you finish your medical school. So that's how he convinced me, because I was, I had to put all my time in that. So, but my father learned Sanskrit through him like that. And then when he came to visit us here, he would just sit and bring the records of Spanish language records, how to learn Spanish. He would constantly listen to the languages, that Spanish language, and he would constantly listen to Spanish TV, Spanish channels on TV. So like that, he would gain some kind of familiarity with the language pronunciation. So that's how I know he would do that. And in Delhi, he used to have a dining table, and he would write on the tables, put a big paper, and he would write on that each one of the language he was learning. He never wasted a minute. I never saw him wasting a minute in his life. So I would say like that, he has learned so many languages, Tamil, Karnataka, Kannada, and Maharashtrian, and so many local languages, plus Sanskrit and French, Spanish, Germany. He has a lot of pravesham in that too. So he could really follow through what's happening in that language. He could read them, yeah.
Because he was into so many things, so many services to people, so many services to humanity at large, and learning. He was a constant learner, always a student of life. I think, I heard you saying that he did not speak. Maybe it's not that he will not speak or he cannot, but maybe he did not have the time to speak because he was involved in so many magnanimous activities.
Absolutely, Andy, you said it correct. And that's what his personality was. If somebody tells me what is he, this is his personality. I can see every step. his personality manifests into something bright, energetic outcomes. So that's his personality. And you said it so right. Thank you. Andy.
No wonder he's interested in the temples because of the divinity. Probably, I mean, it was constantly following him. Maybe it was his calling than his mind talking to him. Probably it was a calling by God himself. So I have no words to say about that. I mean, it's very beautiful. And coming to that, I mean, now to transition to this subject, tell us? Definitely, he's interested in temples. He did a lot for temples and endowments. But what was his reason, and what was, why was he interested in spirituality as such? Because he was called a proverbial Rajarshi. I was reading somewhere. So where did that aspect come into him? I mean, and when did that start?
Then that's a very, very nice question. And this can go on forever.
I know, I can understand.
It's a very interesting question too, because in addition to calling Rajarshi, I would call him as, in addition to that, I would call him also as Sthita Prajna. He was a Sthita Prajna, and this is given all the qualities of Sthita Prajna in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. If you look at verses 60 onwards for 7 or 8 verses, he endows all those qualities in him. And why, as you asked, any human being, when you grow to a certain extent mentally, you become spiritual. You know, when there is no answer to anything, after when you go to psychiatry cannot do anything. You have to go into religion and then spirituality. That's where all the answers opens up. Similarly, my father, being so much thirst for knowledge, he has gone into such a level where he knows himself now. He knows himself means he's highly spiritual. He's a free person. And once he developed that personality, and fortunately he developed it very young age, and that is his, that is because he was doing things as a karma yogi. And that has really helped him to go above karma yoga level. And he was a Sthita Prajna in so many ways. I'll give you 4 things how he was. He gained self-mastery himself. He controlled his mind 1000%. Mind never controlled him. He controlled his mind 100% all the time. And he was not drawn to a lot of attractions outside. A lot of things, what is happening outside. And he was not also averse to anything outside. If somebody is not doing right, or somebody is, kind of damaging him, he would shy away from him. He never made a negative comment about a person, even though even today, Sonia Gandhi, even at that time when he was alive, everybody knew that, there were enemies in his own party, but he never made a negative comment. He just swallowed, internalized, and then remained constant. And I don't know anybody can do that except my father. It is, when you look at our, what's happening right now in politics in this country, what my father did was, he was never jumped up when he was successful, and he never made any grief statements when he was not successful. What do you call such person? He's nothing but...
Call him enlightened.
Yeah. So he was like that. And he always used to establish himself in himself. Like, he's always with himself. He was never listen to others people and take their word as his word? Never. He was always with himself, trying to come up with his own statements, his own actions.
Discernment for
Right.
his own decisions.
Yes, he always used his own discretion, his own discretion. So when a wise man uses his own discretion, what do you call him? Sithaprajna. And he
Well
remained,
defined, absolutely.
yeah, he remained silent and he remained steady in all the time. And that's what used to make us feel so high about him. You know, he never shook, nothing shook him. And he took everything very objectively. And what do you call him? And
Wonderful, wonderful, amazing. Yeah, yeah. I love the way your tone sounded. It shows the kind of respectful love, or respect and love for your father.
yeah, and I was a doctor and daughter for him. So
yes.
I would
Oh,
always,
really?
I always had to tell him, these medicines are good, you take it. Unless he would talk to me, he would not say, this doctor told me to take it, should I take it? So, from Delhi, those are the calls you were always getting. So he used to trust me so much. And I think now it is, I know at that time, I was just like a doctor acting like that. And I had to act him as a doctor when he was asking a question. And it's hard sometimes, when that medicine does have some side effects and you tell him, and then see him having those, and it hurts as a daughter. So, but I have to withdraw myself that I'm a daughter, I'm a doctor, it's good for him. So those are the roles I would play. So in bad times and good times, he was so steady and rock steady. And that helped him a lot. And that's why he was a karma yogi, and that's why he was a Raja yogi, because he performed his duties with no attachment, no personal gains of whatsoever. And I'm yet to find a person who has all this. I'm sure there are so many people there in the world. I'm sure I do not know him, but I'm so fortunate that I could see him every day in my life.
Absolutely. So rather, he's a rare jewel in humanity. Absolutely. From your words, and as we all know about his radiant, multidimensional aura, how he was processing so many things within himself. It is unbelievable that he has so many personality traits in one person. So that's, again, no words for that. My next question, in the interest of time, jumping to the next question, Saraswati Garu. Quickly, you said he was also a musician, because, temples pertain to mantras and some chants, and definitely music, definitely classical or Carnatic or any kind of music. So what was his, was he a musician? Was he a vocalist? What was his?
Very good question too. You have a lot of good questions. You nailed right there.
I wanted to make this more juicy, so I thought I do my homework.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. He's everywhere, and that amazes me. He learned Hindustani music as a child, I think, as he was growing up. When he learned, I do not know. I was not probably even born. But he would just sing Hindustani music, vocal songs. When I was,
you have a good voice?
Very good voice, excellent voice. And whenever he was driving to our small village in the Jeep, and my brothers used to tell us that, oh, he was singing this song and he was doing this, he was doing that, and that was something he enjoyed it. The second thing he did was he encouraged all of us to learn music. And that is something, not only he wanted others to enjoy the music in their life. That was second thing. And then he encouraged a lot of schools and talented people. And like Bhimsen Joshi and all those great people, he always had just direct contact with them. He used to invite them, he used to honor them. So, people, he had a great respect for those great musicians and artists. Fourth thing, whenever he would come to this country for a change and lived in our house, in our home, what he would do is, one day he was a little sick at the time. So he asked me, I need to do something for my hands exercises. He was a little weak in his hands. So I got him keyboard. And he would practice on keyboard all the songs he learned from the Hindustani music. And then more than that, and when my other sister who also lives she lives in Rockford in Illinois, she would come to meet him and my nieces. And then we used to have a singing program and we all sing and he would try to play the music on the keyboard. And then he would comment on, oh, you sang well, or you sang well, oh, you need to bring it down, you need to go up. So those are the things he would quickly come up with, saying some things.
Become critical about those nuances where if they're going right
Absolutely.
or wrong.
Absolutely. And then he would explain the theory of music to us. That was amazing. He knew how the Sarigama Sa came, how they came, and what is the history, what is this, what is that. Whenever possible, he could spend time, and that was really a great moments of our sharing interests with our, with my father and also my brothers and sisters. And in the last part of his years, when he was in Delhi, my brother did the same thing. He got him a nice keyboard. And whenever, he had time, he spent a lot of time on the keyboard. And whenever I went to visit him, he would show me what he learned. And it was such a beautiful moments to be with him those years, last part of his years. And he was just so much ready if it comes. But he always took care of his health as much as possible. And then he always listened to the doctors. And he was a good man as a father.
Not that you are his daughter and he's a good person, but I mean, from his different aspects, we can absolutely agree on that. I mean, there's more to his life than we know, which we have delved deeper and understand. Definitely, because his life itself will heal a lot of people learning from him. Because I'm learning a lot from the words you have given today in this show. I mean, I've imbibed so many things, which were missing in my life. I mean, I'm pretty sure our Mana TV and Mana TV International TV audience will as well, get charmed and get enthusiastic, and they will be benefited by this talk about P.V. Garu.
I hope, it will have impact on them, my father's life, remembering him today, definitely.
Yes, remembering, that's the theme, remembering P.V. Narasimha Rao. And I think, we have to laud for him all the time. And we can do absolutely, we have to do one more show on him because, we can go for hours talking about.
I know.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. We can go hours and hours, definitely, because he's unknown. Finally, it comes to the point how he could do this, and then we don't know, and that means he has to be something beyond our senses. He's probably, we cannot capture him with our ears, eyes, or nose, or our senses, 5 senses which we have. So he has to be beyond that. So only certain people, those we can go beyond that, can understand, and we are not beyond that. So we cherish him, we remember him, we pray for him, and we want him everything what a human person growing at the level deserves to be. So
he did not belong to one family, he belonged to the whole world, rather.
Exactly.
Because he was born for a reason. So coming back to the temples, we had such a wonderful and interesting conversation about his life and music and spirituality. Coming to in the interest of the topic today, coming to the temples, you have said that he has resolved problems. He has taken the charge of different aspects of a temple and resolved them very successfully pertaining to temples in AP, in Andhra Pradesh. I was listening to you that, for different temples, he knew the dimensions of the temples also, because he was
Yes.
deeply interested in those subjects too. So that means he knew the engineering of those temples. So in that regard, tell me the framework he created for the temples which needed renovation, and what was his planning, and what kind of steps he took to reform them. And in the renovation part of, as you said, there were dilapidated building temples, and there were ruins. How did that renovation happen?
That is a very nice question too, because we need to know what happened to the temples after he has done reforms. For anything, one has to bring that to pass the bill, right, in the assembly. So having studied extensively the needs of the temple, the situation of the temple, the construction, status of these temples. So when he did all that, assessed the situation, then the time came for him to present and see what a government can do to those temples. And he was able to bring the law and pass the bill. So now that it is in his hands, right? Unless the bill is passed, he really cannot do anything. So everybody accepted that, yes, something has to be done, the government, and which was nice. Basically, I would say with all the things I have done, he implemented it. We can say 100 things, but if we cannot implement, everything is like a dry. So he tried to implement a lot, and there were funds in the endowments department for the government. So he was able to utilize the money for the betterment of the temples. So that much I see and I hear, because it's, it was in 1961, we did not have telephones, we did not have digital, we did not have IT. A lot of information is probably missing. The reason I thought endowments is good for him, good topic is, this is where he really became more spiritual and grown up so many ways and picked up so many other good portfolios and served the country. And it is like a seed for him. And so all that I know that he did his best to implement what he said to, what he brought, his assessment. And that's how the temples were, they received funds for the construction, for the renovations and things on. And there is one temple in Hyderabad, Chilkuri temple. I don't know if you are aware of it.
Yeah, I know, yes.
And there is a person, Rangarajan, I believe. He's the chairman. And, if you talk to him, he just tells that my father is God. And he knows a lot about the endowment services he has done. I tried to call him a couple of days ago, but he sent a text message that your father did enormous amount of service to the endowments. We cannot thank him enough. So that was his text message I got. So I would say that is, it is a lot of things probably people may not even know. And he is known to do things very silently too. And, and then move on. He doesn't go back and say, oh, I did this, I did that. Never, never. Sometimes I wouldn't even know what he did to my sister sometimes. He would keep things like that. He would do, means that's what I'm trying to say is that he is a man, he does things and he moves on. And only karma yogis can do that. Because everybody wants a phala, right? What we want, what is that we did? Oh, we got this. But he never asked for anything. So like that, silently he did a lot of good things. I hope I answered your question, Andy.
Planning, but implementation.
Right.
is what was his forte as well. I mean,
Right.
it's not that he had ideas and he wanted to do. He had the ideas and he did whatever he wanted to do. So that is as well highly commendable. I mean, I want to as well ask this one because this might be important for all of us to understand. What has PV achieved? I mean, what did he achieve? I mean, what he wanted to achieve, or what did he achieve by bringing up the reforms to the temples, and how Hinduism and people were benefited?
Okay, I think that is what we are looking at, outcomes, right? And outcomes were not personal to him. Outcomes were all for the message, for the people. And even if you go today to TTD today or go to any other temples, they revere him, that he has done so much to the temples. Because all of a sudden, the recognition of a temple attitude about the temples, attitude about the matas changed. So the immediate instant relief, instant outcomes were respect and honor that came on to every temple in Andhra Pradesh. And then they all felt safe. They all felt that, okay, now we have voices. We have a voice, we can go and get things done for the temple. So these are the main things. And then it benefited so many people, so many Hindus across the world. In this regard, I'm not trying to propagate anything. It is in this regard of what he has what he was asked to take that as his job. He did his job more than 100% to do the righteousness to that particular portfolio he took upon. So, what else we can expect? If I do my job 100%, I know I'm going to be feeling like I'm a princess, but and that's what I'm saying. And he did that, and without any results. The results are seen by people.
I mean, I heard somewhere that do your work silently, let success be your noise. So I think so probably that was his
logo too. Yeah,
his motto and his principles. So I mean, in temples, the thing, anyone who visit temple, they go for the peace and the energy in the temple and to sit there and relax. How did he bring, when there were no reforms and after the reforms, we have known things like that. How did he bring integrity, life, and that vibrant energy, that divine energy where those vibes go around to the deities in the temple?
This is a very good point, and I was going to mention that anyway. That's very, very well said. What you said, I know it's a mirror of what you just said. He brought a lot of peace. When devotees go to the temple, they look for peace. They look for unconditional surroundings. They look for some silence, and they look for the energy which comes from the deities. How they come from the deities? Because the deities are installed with a lot of energy in the foundation of the deities. Because there is a lot of yagna goes on when the deities are installed. So that energy is hidden energy. That energy will not come out unless the priests are doing their rituals every day and the devotees are coming there. So the energy which comes out emanates from the deities. When the devotees come and then sit there, they absorb. The devotees, they absorb that energy from the temple. So anytime there are a lot of prayers go on, we always say this has energy, this place has energy, because there is an aura sits there in the hall or in the temples. So temples should be like that. That is his feeling. That's what he said. Temples, you should go to temple, feel good and come out. So that's a lot of peace, a lot of non-violence, no agitation. So these are the things which are very human, which are needed for inculcating into the minds. So he was able to bring that concept in the temples as much as he could. And that he was a believer in that, and he tried to do or implicate all that, what he felt. And that is also dharma. That is, he went according to the dharma to establish what temples should be like and what the mathas should be like. And he followed his own internal voice. Yeah, when you get to hear your voice, that means you are really a person who has grown and grown in spirituality. And I don't know when that happened, but I'm lucky to say that he got that very early, and that's why he had his life spent on that.
That's where he found his calling and started working on these lines. So, I mean, the temples is one thing, but we know that there are so many aspects he has done service for all of us as a prime minister, as a person, as a father, as a husband, I mean, probably as a sibling as well. I mean, in different dimensions, he has broached subjects and, melted hearts, won so many hearts at large. So definitely. So we have to conclude in a few minutes. So I would love to have this one. What is your message? I mean, what is the message you want to render to everybody at large, being the daughter of esteemed P.V. Narasimha Rao? And what underlying principles did you imbibe from your dad? And please pass on this message for the generations to remember, please.
Thank you, Andy. Number one, it is something, being a daughter of P.V. Narasimha Rao, my bar was high. All his children's bar was also high. And that was a positive attitude. And he lived his life. So suddenly we realized we don't have to reach somebody's bar. It is a bar we set for ourselves. For that, we have to know ourselves. We have to find our own journey. And that journey does not come by negative things, doing negative things, or doing things which are out of the ordinary. Just stick to what we have learned in childhood, at home as well as at school. Basic things what we learn is what makes you a person later on, to do things what is right for you. And have we always watched him doing things which are, we may not have understood at that time, but when we grew up and we understood, it was a shock to us that he was like that. So that was a shock. Our jaws were dropped when I drop every time I knew about how humble his life was, what was his philosophies, how his interest was education, how his interest in music, how he did things touching his heart and touching other people, how he has to pursue his own life. Similarly, we learned to pursue our own life. We learned value system from him. We learned how to be right from him. We learned a path where we could bring his values in our own life paths, because what was wrong, his paths were all perfect. A God, if you go to a God and ask him, he would say the same thing. These are the things you should do to live. And if you go to a big Swamiji, you ask them same thing, he would say, this is the way to live a good human life. And we learned already from our father, just seeing him. So my message is, live with your own feelings. My message is, always listen to the good things our parents say. Just because we have some negative things does not mean that we have to follow those. By doing good things, the negatives go away gradually. And also, it is our responsibility to be good citizens for your family as well as to the citizens of the city and country you are from. And have a hobby to enjoy good times and bad times. That's my message, Andy.
That's so many things which are important in life for all of us, especially when you said that go with your feelings. A lot of us, sometimes we shun to follow that feeling aspect, and then we just go with our logical mind and tend to make mistakes. But when you said the feelings part has to, be bang on,
Right.
that I think so many of us will be benefited.
Yeah.
The things you have imbibed from him are, are really cherishable. Absolutely.
And that, he always gave us the space or freedom to grow, even as children. And that, I think all parents, try to do that. And we were not doing it. Even myself, I didn't do it because, coming to this country, new country, and, a lot of things, uncertainties. And so we were a little, strict and supervising more. But in general, I would say that a child has to be given a freedom to make some decisions, and make sure that the parents are there who would also guide them. So this is a very delicate balance, Sunday. And of course, I would not say my life was all fine and dandy, but we had to learn right things, and they don't come right just like that. You got to really make efforts to get the right path, and then start the journey and go on with the journey.
People at large. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And finally, because the theme we wanted to put on the appeal, I want you to give us the reasons. Throw light on P.V. Narasimha Rao getting Bharat Ratna and your reasons supporting the same, and you can make the appeal. And I hope
Okay, Nick.
people will
Well,
start the petition.
that is true. That is true. And the reason I'm here is, number one, remembering my father, sharing my feelings, sharing my experiences, and sharing the joy with you all, and enjoy the day to day. And every time there is a celebration, my heart just gets so lighthearted, and I get so lighthearted and feel very joyful. And the reason we are here, I'm here also for another reason, an important reason is, a person like my father, he should be rewarded. He should be awarded a Bharat Ratna, from Government of India. And there is nothing which should stop him, which did in the past because of some personal reasons. But today, my plea, I request all of you that he is the most deserved candidate to receive Bharat Ratna. Why? He is the father of the nation in the economics. He lifted the country from the brink to the status where we have now. Within few months, the country accumulated billions of dollars within few months of his economic liberalization being introduced. And he was a person with a character, with values. He's a multilinguistic person. He was a writer. He was an author. He's a father of nuclear invention. Abdul Kalam and him, there was such a good understanding for them. If it was needed, he was ready. Kalam was ready, and because he was getting okay from my father, if it is needed. So it is, that his protection is there. He will be well protected if my father would have said yes. And it is for what? For the country, for the safety of the country. He developed that, and he kept it secret. And that is a great thing my father had. Again, he was very silent in this also. And he was a big music lover. And he was very passionate about computers, IT, artificial intelligence. At that age, he was constantly working with computers. He was constantly talking to IT people. He had just an enormous amount of respect and love and passion for people who learned those things. And he was mostly selfless man, very much down to earth. And he made so many reforms, so many things for the society, for India, in India. And those are still now, they're being cherished, and the results of them are seen today. And how many because of the liberalization and how many IT people are in this country, they're not, I cannot even count. And because they always say that they got benefited from that one thing he introduced in the government. And I would say these are the, I can go on to say all the achievements he has made in nation and also in the world. And he's the most deserving candidate for Bharat Ratna. I would say he would need more than that, because he's a special person, special character, and special achiever and special server for the nation and the world. I plead all of you to sign the petition and send it to the government. And I want to thank all of you for giving me this opportunity to request for Bharat Ratna to in front of you. And I want to thank Sharat Garu and again TV, Mana TV organizers and also NRI organizers to organize this meeting and able to bring me to this place for giving this talk. Thank you, Andy.
Insights about P.V. Garu. I'm pretty sure people will sign the petition, looking at his looking at different aspects of his life, which are helpful to all of us. I mean, it's almost a 10-volume book of his life. I mean, probably more. I mean, probably this is it is an understatement. But I mean, thanks for coming to my show and giving us your personal experiences with P.V. Garu and about the whole scenario of the temples and the reforms and his strong work in the endowments department. So thank you so much for coming today. And
thank you, Andy.
Thank you so much. So friends, so that was Saraswati Kalvakota appealing for Bharat Ratna for P.V.Narasimha Rao. And we had such amazing insights on temples and music and spirituality and the whole life of P.V.Narasimha Rao. So if you feel this is sensible, so use your discernment to sign the petition, and we'll go for that. And definitely I'll thank NRI and NRI's organization, Mana TV, TV5 and Mana TV International for giving me these opportunities. See you next week. Thank you so much.